And we're back here once again with another episode of the MSK show. And this is going to be episode 182. And in this episode of the MSK show, I am going to be having a conversation with Mr. Dennis Barger of Wonder World Comics. So we ended up basically meeting each other on Facebook. And as you guys know, I have a comic book channel that I release comic book, reviews on and news on. And I was like, you know what? At some point, I do want to end up talking to a comic book shop owner, because that way, if I ever have like any questions on why things are done the way they are, because these things are usually just like rumored and speculated on, but why certain things are the way they are. But it's actually good to just talk to someone that's actually doing it rather than always talking about like what we think might happen and what we think might be going on, So your boy went out there and found a comic book shop owner that's not basically trying to rip all the hair off his head, honestly.
Yeah.
Given how the industry is gone. But nice to meet you, man. How are you doing?
Good. So I'm Dennis Barger for all your watchers. I've been buying collectibles for 45 years. I've been selling collectibles for 35 years, and I've owned a store, Wonder World Comics, for 20 years. And for 17 years of that, I was doing it all wrong. And for the last 3 years, I've totally switched gears and I'm doing a totally different thing, but I'm still a comic book seller. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, so there's quite a bit of things I wanted to ask you, even though we only have just like an hour of time. So next time you're coming on, we'll definitely have a lot more. So let's just start here, because I want to get the juicy parts out of the way first, because you were known for dropping some bombshells. You basically roasted Diamond, the distributor. So for people who don't know, so let me set this up for everyone. So there's this distributor named Diamond, and they were essentially the main distributor of all the comic book stores product, actually. And they recently just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, the owner, I forgot his name.
Steve Jeppy. Steve Jeppy
tried to run a monopoly on the market some years ago, back during the whole lockdown period. And DC Comics, for those who don't know, they actually left Diamond. And that was probably, let's be honest here, that's the joke right there. That's Jim Lee's only accomplishment, was that he took DC Comics away from them. Because, Marvel's just always, they don't give a fuck anymore. They're just so beyond stupid at this point. They literally could care less about comic books. But after, DC left Diamond, Marvel did too. Now they use Penguin Random House or Lunar and everything. So you've dealt with Diamond as a comic book shop owner, have you not?
Yes. So I want to correct you. Your opinions are definitely not my opinions. Yes, Steve Jeppy monopolized the industry into kind of a consolidated bundle. In hindsight, I honestly think that was probably the right decision at that time. I also agree that when Steve shut down Diamond for COVID, I believe that was also the right. However, now that we're looking back, Diamond definitely needed to play a lot softer touch with DC when that happened. DC actually gave him some ultimatums to let DC stay at Diamond. And Diamond then got an ego problem, which they said, oh, well, where else are you going to go?
Oh,
and basically
no.
DC had both barrels loaded, and they're like, well, we'll tell you what we're going to do.
Okay.
And that was that's where you needed to be less of a monopoly and more of a leader of the industry when that happened. So
I wanted to ask you this, because a lot of people aren't just got to know these things. There's a lot of nuance there. So let's start from the beginning, like you said. Because this is a common ass thing from a lot of people that aren't shop owners. Why were shop owners okay with this for many years and they didn't do anything about it?
Well, and you're absolutely right. They were okay with it. So much so that even when DC and Marvel both left Diamond, a lot of retailers, I've been told as many as 50 to 60% of those retailers that are left stayed at Diamond and had a lesser discount rate because it was easier to order through Diamond and get all of their stuff from one place. So So the retailers that were complaining about this monopoly, when given the chance to break out and go buy their DC from Lunar and their Marvel from Penguin Random House at 50% off or more, they chose to stay at Diamond because there's a lot of reasons. Now, in hindsight, that we're finding out that a lot of these retailers owed Diamond money. It was because Diamond was allowing them to go deeper in debt. That might be one of the reasons that they had. Diamond had better software. I tried Penguin software. I hated it.
Okay.
So Diamond definitely had a better ordering system for a lot of retailers.
Which one offers free shipping? Because I heard one of the two.
Penguin offers shipping, which is huge. But that was the thing.
Big. Yeah.
Stayed at Diamond were willing to pay for the shipping that they've been complaining about for 30 years. But stayed at Diamond and ordered their stuff through them.
Yeah. So you're someone who is a shop owner who gets these shipments in. Did Diamond continuously send damaged product? Because that's a big complaint that people had. They did?
Yeah.
So how often was it? Was it like once weekly?
I remember one week, I want to say it was close to like 25 books out of like 1,000. And that was like, we were dancing in our store. Like, oh my God, we only had 25 damaged books. Get out. I mean, we were talking, you know, and this was my complaint. And I had a famous video that went viral with the retailers where I took a box of damaged comics and I dropped it on the stage at Diamond Comics. And I said, you know, this is the stuff you send us. Take a look. Come on, take a look. This is what you send us and tell us that we should be able to sell. And so when Diamond started 30 years ago, the books were like $1.50, $2. Every book was a wholesale cost of 75 cents to $1. That's an important thing, because when you stack all those books in a 200 count box, and then you put that 200 count box into another box, two of those 200 counts, that's a 400 count box. Retailers paid $400 for that.
Okay.
They paid $20 or $30 to ship it. These are all smaller percentages. If it took a bang on the corner, it cost you $50. It cost you $25. You know, it didn't destroy thousands of dollars. But then when we got to the $4.99 comic and the $3.99 comic and the $5.99 comic, and you put 400 of those in a box, that's $1,200 worth of product.
It's true.
You hit that corner, you're hitting $500. And they were still shipping it the way they were shipping it when it was $1 comic, you know, $1.50 comic.
So back then, did you ever predict that they would eventually go out of business because they were never able to like update their business model? Actually,
well, I said it quite often. I said many times that Diamond, we're in a partnership here. It's like we're married to you.
Yeah.
And you're coming home drunk and you're beating us every week. And you know, eventually we're going to get smart and get divorced. And or you're going to get into something even worse that you're not going to be able to get yourself out of. And I was giving lectures to retailers. I'm like, guys, you have to be prepared. The week that Diamond box stops coming, if you are reliant on that box to pay your rent, to put food on the table for your kids, and all you have is that Diamond box to make the money off of, you're screwed. Someday that box might not come. And sure enough, we're at the point right now where boxes aren't coming because some of these retailers didn't pay their bills and the bankruptcy courts aren't letting them get new product until they settle up, you know, and those boxes aren't coming and these retailers are screwed.
Even just recently, as far as just what's this month? This month is March. So December, you guys remember last Christmas, you guys probably heard about, you know, basically Diamond being delayed on shipping products to the stores. I
started predicting this in December. The way that went down was very fast and very furious. It was just a letter out of nowhere. Hey guys, we're closing our New York distribution hub and you're going to get all your books through Olive Branch, Mississippi now. And everyone's like, huh? Like, starting when? Starting next week. Okay, hey, where's my box? It's probably just delayed at Olive Branch. Okay, why are my boxes coming in these non-diamond boxes? Why are my books coming in these non-diamond boxes? Don't worry about that. It'll be there sooner or later. You'll get your comics. Everything's fine. If you've ever seen Animal House, it's the character, remain calm, all is well.
And the Office episode, hey, everyone, calm down, everything's fine.
yeah. And we were sitting there going, okay, they're out. For some reason, they had to get, there's no notice that they had to get out of that Plattsburgh, New York office. That's a red flag. The box is not coming with the diamond logos on the side. That's a red flag. See, when you are a company like Diamond and you put all your stuff in a box that says Diamond on the side, and all of a sudden it doesn't come, that means you ran out of those Diamond boxes. You didn't reorder those Diamond boxes because you probably owe the printer that made those boxes for you money, and they said, hey, man, we can't keep making these boxes for you for free. You need to get us some money.
So speaking of Diamond, I also want to add on to your point, which is, there have been shop owners out there or people that have worked for shops and saying the Diamond rep you had was like disrespectful or not really someone that you kind of, wanted to interact with. Was the person that you were able to interact with, like a Diamond rep, you had a decent relationship or a decent person, or it was a person you were like, man, I really hate dealing with this guy?
So before COVID, well, first of all, most of my reps hated dealing with me because I just
you're a swell guy, who would hate dealing with you?
I don't know. But I eventually got to the point where I had a great sales rep. And they were like, nope, totally understand. Hey, do this, do that. We'll get you damage replacements immediately, whatever we can get, blah, blah, blah. So we did everything to make sure we were first in line. I had my staff there at 9 a.m. on Tuesday to process all those books by 10 or 11 so that we could get our damage orders in immediately so that we get replacements by Thursday or Friday. We did everything right. But then COVID happened. And everybody moved to their houses. Well, I was told that a lot of the sales reps were told they weren't needed anymore. And then, so you could call your sales rep from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Sometimes. They had 2 shifts of salespeople every day.
Okay.
After COVID and after they started back up and DC left, they were operating on 70% of the money that they usually are operating on because DC was over there now, and they took their 30% and went over there.
Okay. Because there have been, people on like social media that have worked with comic book shops and have to deal with the reps. And they're like, well, my rep was a pleasant person to deal with. But that's the type of mindset that I don't know if a lot of people understand. Just because a situation happens to you does not mean that's a situation for everyone.
Oh, yeah. And so I started noticing they had shortened the windows of when you could call in and talk to sales reps. And I want to say it was something like, you're allowed to call from 12 to 2 on this day, or 2 to 4 and leave a message and we'll call you back at 5, and it was all this crazy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, where is it? Now I had the phone numbers of people that I could call if I had an emergency, but the average retailer didn't.
Okay.
So they're going through these hoops to try to get what they were getting for the same price, a year ago. And it wasn't working. That model was not conducive to getting things done. I think it was just a slow and steady decline. But like I said, if Diamond was operating at 100% in December of 2019 and 99% customer service rating and all the product was arriving perfect and undamaged, COVID wouldn't have been an issue at all. Mm-hmm. And I just shared this video on my Facebook page. In 2017, I stood up in front of the Diamond Retailer Summit and I said, guys, this is a problem that I'd like to see you guys address. I would like you guys to start positive reporting me. You know, when you pay your cell phone bill every month, Verizon says, creditors, he's paying his bills. Be nice to him. You know, your Credit Karma score just went up by 10 points because you always paid your Chase bill off. You know, that kind of stuff. Well, Diamond didn't do that. And I was spending thousands of dollars a week with him. And I'm like, you sold me a POS system on terms that I paid off in 3 years. That should be reported on my credit. I should see, hey, Diamond says you're a good credit guy.
Yeah. So for people that don't know this, when it comes to like banks and credit line stuff, the way you get more credit so you can buy more stuff, you have to have a track record. Because as people know, because listen time to another point as far as people not paying off their comic book pull list, when you want everything now is pretty much done by credit. If you want to buy a house, buy a car, rent an apartment, everything's done by credit. They want to prove that you can actually pay your bills on time and when you need to. So if they're not reporting that, you're screwed.
And I went round and round for like 9 minutes with this Diamond VP at this summit in front of everybody. And everybody in the crowd's like, yeah, actually, yeah, what he's saying, we'd like to see some of that.
Well, they wouldn't say it themselves. That's the problem. And so I told you on Facebook is like people, not just shop owners, everyone does that. Where when one person finally says what's on their mind about how much bullshit they've been dealing with the comics, whether it be a fan reading the books or someone that's working in the retail partners like you do, people cheer them on, but they don't do it themselves because secretly, what I feel personally is that they want to be shills to get free shit. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like this happens with a lot of people where they want to be essentially on their knees for these companies to just get free shit to the point where they're not going to rock the boat.
Joseph, you have no idea how close to the mark you just hit. I mean, bullseye. And that was the problem.
You see it on YouTube a lot too. Like people that will review a comic book, they know it's not good, or you can feel in their voice it's not good. Because I can't really tell someone's mind. I'm not a fucking mind reader, but they'll never say anything bad about the book because they want to get those early PDF files, those early review copies. It just feels like everyone's just so afraid to speak out on their minds. I don't know. And then recently, you just saw this. I know you did. There was the guy that works at Marvel where he blasted them on Instagram. And then everyone was like, it's okay. I'll finally say how I feel about Marvel. Yeah. Why didn't you say this months, years ago? Remember the other shop owner, just about 2022, 2023, that guy, I think he's close to you.
In your area. No, he's in New York.
Heavyset guy.
Palace, Comics Palace or something. That guy, and but you saw exactly what happened to that guy. He spoke up and guess what? Immediately after that, half the industry started trashing him.
Johnny Cates called him a hog.
Pepperoni pizza breath.
He didn't even shit on. To be fair, I agree with him. He shitted on them because I remember what he said was basically, we don't want to read you and these characters. We want to read about these characters. And I can't. He essentially said, guys, I can't sell your shit. Write better shit. I need my numbers going up because he's a shop owner. He needs his numbers going up because he has a business to run. And everyone just went out, but he didn't say anything wrong because a bunch of people went, well, when customers come into his shop, does he help them out? Okay, guys, unless you're not 5 years old, I'm pretty sure you can go over to a long box and start looking. Okay, you're not 5 years old. And here's the thing,
if the book was so good, all the YouTubers like you would be talking about, guys, you've got to go check this book out.
It would happen organically too. It would happen naturally.
Flying off the shelves.
Yeah.
Batman, Absolute Batman was so good. They were flying off the shelves.
I did read it. It was good.
Second print, very good. Third print, fourth print.
Noir printing. Yeah.
Right. And if the books were that good, they don't have to have the comic retailer sell them for them. People start in droves to get it. But if everybody's like, yeah, I kind of like cover C. It was pretty cool looking, but I haven't even cracked it yet. That's not something that anyone is going to run out and buy.
Do you know what I noticed as a red flag early on? When they stopped reporting on the actual sales. You remember that? That was an early red flag for me. Because how the hell these companies work. If like you just said, if the books were selling as well as they were, they'd brag about it. They would just literally brag about it. They weren't selling a lot.
But here's the funny part. That all stopped with COVID. Because now all the books went through Diamond, and Diamond being the collation of all of that retail wholesale hub, They had all the numbers. One person had all of the numbers, one company. So there's these other companies that Diamond would publish the top 300 list. And then this other website named Comic-Con, they would take that top 300 list and they would break it down by sales and by numbers. And okay, well, that means this book sold 125,000 units. This book sold, and boom, 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 boom. Yeah. And we could see Marvel beat DC 5-3 that month, and Image had 2 on the top 10. And, this was the chunk that Marvel had, and this was the chunk that DC had. All of those numbers were in one place, and they were able to be extrapolated to the entire industry. Then all of a sudden, DC's over there, and all you can do is trust DC's numbers. And then Marvel moved over there, and Marvel's like, we don't want anybody to know these fucking numbers. Fuck you.
Speaking of Absolute Batman, because you bring up DC's numbers, randomly, they were like, hey, we have the highest selling book of 2024, Absolute Batman #1. But then you start thinking to yourself, guys, I read Absolute Batman. I thought it was pretty good. And I read Ultimate Spider-Man #1 by Jonathan Hickman. I thought that was pretty good as well. But if you guys remember this, I know you did, Ultimate Spider-Man #1 by Jonathan Hickman, that was hype. You could feel it. It was right when they made that Twitter announcement, Spider-Man Married with Children, hype. That same level of hype we're talking about with Ultimate Spider-Man #1, that didn't happen with Absolute Batman. That felt so fake. There's no way Absolute Batman sold more than Spider-Man. I mean, I would never be able to tell.
Hold on, can I tell you? Can I tell you the scam though? This is the scam.
Ooh.
Discount Comic Book Service, a company that sells product all over the world at 35% off the cover price. Mm-hmm. They own Lunar, DC's distributor. So if DC wants a book to sell way more than it actually is, they can go, hey, by the way, DCBS, do you think you could order an extra 100,000 copies of this book if we sell it to you for 25 cents a cover, and then you put it over on your website and make sure you're never out of it? And then all those chump retailers, they'll put in their orders. But then we can say, we sold this many, guys, biggest selling book of 2024. We don't know if that's real or not, because I can't trust a discount retailer owning the distributor. I can't.
You're talking about basically a smoke and mirrors scam they're trying to put off. Like they're trying to put off that there's a ruse that Absolute Batman is the best-selling book, when in reality, it could have just not even sold as well as they say they did, but they have to say it sold well because they don't want to put off the illusion that it didn't do bad. Right.
And it's easy to hide because nobody knows the real numbers.
Nobody knows the numbers.
Discount Comic Book Service doesn't have to tell anybody how many they ordered.
The whole source trust me, bro. Are you saying the industry now relies on basically source trust me, bro?
Exactly.
Like Ultimate Spider-Man, if you remember, that was very hype.
Everybody and everybody ordered that book because it was Ultimate Spider-Man. We have a track record on rebooting Spider-Man like that. The retailers that remember 2001 when they did it the last time, and when Miles Morales came around, when they revitalized the book, we have numbers in our heads for what an Ultimate Spider-Man will sell.
But it never felt like Absolute Batman had what Ultimate Spider-Man had. No. It never felt like it. And so when DC said that, I was like, I don't know if that's true. It's like the only way you'd believe that is unless you literally weren't there at that time period. That's the only way, because they're banking on no one caring about comic book news to the point where they could just do revisionist history. Now, we had the best-selling book. No one even knew that the new Absolute Universe was going to begin. It was just rumored that it was going to begin. Like that. It was so in the dark. You knew more.
I mean, nothing for nothing. They didn't announce it until until Ultimate Spider-Man blew the doors off everybody.
They did. That's
so.
True.
It's once again, it's just DC following Marvel and doing what Marvel does.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, for average people who don't know this, so correct me if I'm wrong, you yourself order shit, right?
No. So my new business model is a retro comic book store.
Oh, okay.
Now I do order, with all due honesty. I have another retailer friend of mine, and when he's placing his orders, he'll be like, hey, do you want in on this Absolute Batman? I'm like, hey, Scott Snyder's my bro. I love Scott. Go ahead and give me 20 of them.
Okay.
Just to support my guy. You know what I'm saying? And so I'll put a stack of them, and I sold them. I bought number 2. I bought number 3.
Oh, so you're saying Absolute Batman is a title that is selling?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. And I order it in very small numbers just to make sure I have a little bit from my customers who do like new books or do like character.
But you don't overwhelmingly buy new books because you know they don't sell very well.
No, 99% of everything in my store is vintage retro comic books.
Okay. And the other thing I want to ask you, so you can kind of let people know about this. So the average person thinks that if I walk into your store and I buy an absolute Batman #1, that means that DC gets some sort of like percentage of it. Now, to be fair, the reason why I understand why people think that is because that's how most businesses function. I go into a store and I buy something, you get a percentage of it. So from what I know about how it works is basically you order the stuff in advance, you get the shipments, you stock the books.
Let me educate you and your audience for a second. So back in let's just go to Action Comics #1, 1938.
Oh God.
Okay. Action at DC Comics national periodicals would send a guy that sold newspapers and magazines, and they would just send him a bundle of 20 comic books of whatever they wanted to send him. And that guy would get the bundle and he'd put it on his shelf. And if he sold all 20 of them, he owed national periodicals. I think at that time it was 88 cents. I think it was 80%.
God damn.
So if they sold 20, they had to pay him $1.60, I guess. Or is that right? Did I math that right?
Very good.
So they sent him $1.60, and then Action Comics #2 would show up, and they'd maybe send him 25 copies the next time. And that's the way it went. The comic newsstand would make 20% if they sold the books for the comic publisher.
Yeah.
To the 1970s, a bunch of these guys who grew up reading Action Comics and all of these old comic books, they wanted to open a comic book store because they were collecting and they were trading and they were going to these things called Comic Cons that had just started in the 60s. And they wanted to open stores dedicated to comic books, but they weren't a newsstand. And they couldn't get those deals. So they made a special deal with the publishers. Hey, guys, how can we get comic books? Well, they're like, well, I mean, we really don't trust you guys to like be honest and tell us how many you sold. How about we do this? We'll sell it to you. And let's just say the price was 15 cents or 20 cents. We'll just say it was 20 cents a piece in the 70s. And we'll sell you as many comic books as you want to buy at 10 cents a piece, but you can't return them.
Oh.
And these guys were like, yeah, that's not such a bad deal.
It's not a bad gamble back in the day.
We were going to buy it. Yeah. We were going to buy it off of the newsstand for 20 cents. This saves us 10 cents and we can order as many as we want. Awesome. And so if you ever looked at old comic books, there's the old barcode and then there's a barcode with a slash through it.
Yeah.
The barcode with the slash through it is what they sent the comic book stores. So that way they couldn't take their unsold comics and give it to somebody who owned a newsstand and get returns for that.
So you're even saying basically from the inception of how all of this came to be, it's always been some fucked up shit.
Yes. So eventually those newsstands disappeared. The spinny rack at 7-Eleven disappeared. You're too young to remember all the spinny racks everywhere.
But, yeah, I didn't have that here.
There were spinny racks at every grocery store, every convenience store, every five and dime. Everybody had a comic book rack. They were making hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million comic books during that time. Well, as that started shrinking, the comic book store was there. So now they're like, well, shit, we have to sell these dumbasses. They every book they buy, they have to keep. All right.
There's another thing I wanted to add to your point, which is now with that one, which I brought up earlier, which is like you order all these books and then the average person thinks they could just go in there and I buy this book, then they get a percentage. Guys, that's not how it works. Nope. Essentially, if you have overstock, you have overstock. Like just because let's say you said absolute Batman #1. So we use that one. Yeah. Let's say you have your shop. There's like 6 out. Well, guys, he has more of those in his back room in boxes. Hopefully. That's what he just put out that it's going to sell. Yeah. So the average person that doesn't get that just because you see like 6 books doesn't mean that they're all going to sell and doesn't even mean when they are sold, you sold every book.
And we also have all these formulas in our head. Okay, so I've got 20 pull box members and I have 5 guys that I know will buy this off the shelf. That's 25 guaranteed sales. I'll order 30 so that I have the 20 for my pull boxes, I'll have 5 for those guys that buy it off the shelf, and I'll have another 5 if this thing catches fire. Now, you start doing the math on that, and you make this much if you sell all 30 copies.
That's not worth it to sustain a business. There's no way.
Well, but then there's 50 titles from DC. So you hope that if you have that same formula, you hope you make 20% profit here, 30% profit here, 100% profit here, and it all averages out to a decent profit margin that helps you buy next month's books.
And there's another thing you mentioned in your video, which that was very, very important, because I remember that post where basically the post went something like, it's not the shops that are screwing you over, it's the customers that don't come and pick up their books. Now, I want people to understand this. If you cannot afford your pull list, go and tell them you can't afford it. And you can't be mad at you can't be mad at your shop owner because, hey, that contract's broken. You didn't pay off your debt. You didn't give them the money. So they shouldn't be allowed to give you another pull list. That makes perfect sense. If you didn't pay the money the first time, I shouldn't be giving you shit the next time.
But then the secret is they go to your competitor and then they eventually do it to him. So you're like, okay, good riddance. Go over to my competitor and screw him in 5 months,
and that's what I wanted to ask you. How many shops do you think were actively doing that? Basically adding in more books to people's pull lists that they weren't even paying off?
I would say,
you got to guess roughly.
I'd say 30 to 40%.
That's big though. That's a lot.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. That's every segment of this industry. So the customers, they'll hit a store for probably 10 or 20% of unbought books. And then the store is stacking for the shelf another 10 to 20% of unstocked books. So now they got hit for 40% of their profit margin. Well, if they operate on a 100% profit margin and they just lost, all but this, that's their profit. That's what they got to take home at the end of the day. Okay, well, maybe they can't pay the diamond bill. Okay, well, they go a little behind on the diamond bill because they only made this much last month and they got to pay their rent and all their employees out of that and the electricity. Okay, well, now they owe Diamond a little bit more money. So then Diamond is like, well, I can't lose this customer. I might as well keep sending them comic books and let them go into debt. Okay, then the publishers are like, hey, Diamond, you got that check for us? Well, hold on, guys. We got a lot of retailers that haven't paid their bills. We're trying to collect from them. Can we pay you in maybe another month? Okay, sure, Diamond. I mean, where else are we going to sell all of our comic books? So then the publishers start getting owed money from Diamond. And then you get to the point where Diamond owes all the publishers $39 million.
This all sounds like one big pyramid scheme.
Yes, you're getting it. You're getting it now.
Oh, God, man. Because there's another thing I wanted to ask you. So you brought this up in your video, which is there are people online, because they're so stupid and brainwashed. They literally think it was because Diamond went woke and that's when they broke. Guys, had nothing to do with Diamond.
Nothing to do with it.
Filling out of business.
And I know I know so many people at Diamond that are absolute conservatives. That's totally opposite.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with wokeness, guys. Diamond's been basically not liked for a very, very long time. Like, basically, put it away. Stop.
No. Let me correct you. In the early 90s, when Diamond went exclusive with Image, and Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, all the Image founders all got $1 million checks from Diamond. Everyone loved Diamond when they were all getting $1 million checks.
Oh.
Then the crash happened in the mid 90s.
Yep.
Then they started coming back in the 2000s. Then The Walking Dead made us all a whole lot of money and everybody forgave everybody. But it's only when the stuff starts coming back down again and this happens that everybody all of a sudden was like, damn it, Diamond, why'd you kill the comic industry?
Because couldn't you blame Marvel and DC for doing that? Because to be fair, Diamond is just the distributor. They're just giving you a product. Technically, for being honest, Marvel and DC's fault for putting out, you would say, bad books, right?
Let's pretend. What department? What grocery store do you have in your town?
We got Stater Brothers here, and like Food for Less, stuff like that.
Okay, do you have a Ralph's?
No, well, I'm on the West Coast. You guys have Ralph's. I wish we did. We
West Coast is a California thing. Okay, so the Stater Brothers, right? Let's just say you're the Stater Brothers. You're Diamond Stater Brothers. And I sell cookies. And I sell chocolate
cookies.
chip cookies. Everybody loves cookies.
Yeah.
Everybody loves cookies.
Yeah.
And I keep sending you cookies. I send you big cookies. I send you a bigger cookie. Now you got 2 of my cookies on the wall. And I send you 5 different cookies. You know what I'm saying? And you're selling the shit out of my cookies. You're loving my cookies. And then I'm like, hey, I think we're going to switch to sugar-free cookies with no chips. And our entire new line is going to be called Ultimate Cookies. But it's going to taste like shit, and it's going to have no flavor.
I'm going to be honest here. That sounds like a really great parody indie comic book. That sounds honestly really good.
So all of a sudden, you're the Stater brothers, and you're like, hey, Dennis's cookies, man. Man, we sold the shit out of those chocolate chips. And remember when you made them bigger and we sold the shit out of those? And remember when you made them double stuff? Oh, man, we sold the shit out of those. I couldn't sell this sugar-free, tasteless, chipless cookie if my life depended on it. That's what you would do, right?
Yes.
You would call up Dennis's Cookies as the distributor, as the sales, the retailer, and the distributor. Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, hey, man, can you fix this? Because I would love to get back to selling good cookies. Mm-hmm. I don't think Diamond ever tried that with Marvel or DC or Image. They never went to publishers like Dynamite Magazine or Dynamite Publishing and said, hey, Nikki, I know you really think this 26 variants for Red Sonja versus Deja Thoris is a great idea, but I have to put 26 spots on my wall, and I have to tell my kind of stupid employees to make sure they grab the right one every time, and it's really difficult. You would make our life way easier if you made 4 variants for Red Sonja versus Deja Thoris. Marvel, you'd make our... Remember when we were selling all of those Miles Moraleses written by Brian Michael Bendis?
Yeah.
Could you call up Bendis and see if he'll come back and make you some more of them Miles Morales? Because we sold the shit out of those. Those were really good comics.
What I noticed, what you're saying is what they've been doing recently. And guys, I know they printed omnibuses before and trades always, but have you noticed that they've been basically fast tracking like older collected stories that people have always wanted to be in omnibuses? Like just recently with the Green Arrow shit, they released a new Green Arrow omnibus that is older shit that no one's been able to basically get outside of like back issues and stuff.
I'll beat you to that. Hey, remember when they made new comic books with new stories?
Oh shit! Remember, some would say they haven't been doing that forever.
And for the last 5 years, it's been every facsimile of every comic book that either Marvel or DC has ever published.
Yeah, I know it's the facsimile stuff. They
20 to 30% of every month is facsimiles.
Yeah,
that's just reprints.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that no different than the X-Men bullshit they pulled back in the day, reprinting all those X-Men issues? Yeah, that's what I've told people. A lot of the stuff that's coming out, there's no way anyone's reading everything new. And keep in mind, no one can afford everything. Right. Like they've been dropping so many more trades recently, so many more random collected stuff. Like they'll drop like a little Marvel verse book more randomly now. Like omnibuses are coming out way more consistently because they know the stuff that sells the best is like the older stuff that people are interested in.
I'll tell you a funny story, and this shows you how old I am. When I was a kid, I was reading G.I. Joe and Transformers. Those are my first 2 comic books I was like all in on. And I was at the spinny rack one day, and I was just watching. You ever see the live action 70s Spider-Man TV show?
No,
with Nicholas Hammond. Everything would like go black and white, and it would flash, and his eyes would glow if he had his spider senses, and he would shoot a web, but it was actually just a rope that the stuntman would swing on. But that was on TV on a rerun. And I was in the comic store looking for G.I. Joes and Transformers. Mm-hmm. And I saw a live action picture on the cover of a Spider-Man book. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like the old TV show. I'm going to pick that up. That cost like 50 cents, 60 cents. You could sample at 50, 60 cents. But when it's $4.99 for the average comic book, you can't sample. I mean, think about it.
And they might be going up. Remember how we heard they might be going to $5.99?
Yeah, but you're going to go. Wendy's has the biggie bag for $6. McDonald's has the $5 meal deal. You know, every once in a while, Subway will have a $5 footlong. You know, maybe it's just the meatball sub, but it's still a $5 footlong. I'll go sample one of those on my way home from the comics that I want to read. I'm not going to go sample a $5 comic book that might suck. That's kind of where it's at.
Yeah. Because the thing I wanted to tackle onto your point earlier about reprints, you go on like League of Comics Geeks and scroll down what comes out weekly, because I do, because that's what I get my pull stuff from. All that's reprints. Second, third. Transformers, guys, is literally some of those issues randomly could be like issues 1 through 6 in the IDW Image and Skybound stuff. That shit's on like its 5th, 7th reprint. Yeah. Like it's nothing but just reprints of stuff mostly. Yeah. And so do you think, I'll ask you this, do you think personally, if Marvel and DC started making just better quality books in general with better quality storylines and characters, do you think even that would be enough to kind of keep the industry alive and afloat for a long time?
Yes. Well, hold on. It has to be multifaceted.
Okay. Yeah.
So if Marvel is publishing 50 comic books right now, and let's just say 10 are good, like really good. Mm-hmm. Like you talk about it when people are at the store and somebody picks up that book off the wall and they're like, oh, are you reading that? Yeah, it's really good, dude.
You're talking like must-buy books. You can't miss out on each issue.
Exactly. Yeah. You got 10 of those for Marvel and DC. Mm-hmm. The other 40, nah. Do we really need another this, that, or the other thing? Does DC need 20 different Batman titles every month? That
they would say yes.
That have 40 different continuities, you know? No. So I think both of them have to shrink the lines down to like 20 to, well, I'd say 30 books. These are the best 30 books that we could come up with. Now, I know you got 50 spots on your walls, comic book retailers, but let's shrink this thing down to 30 good books. And instead of having 10 great ones, let's have 20 great ones. Mm-hmm. And then we'll occasionally throw one out to you that's like a weirdo thing that we want to see if you're into. But we're going to make that like $2.99 because we know you're not going to sample a $4.99 crazy book written by somebody doesn't know, and an art that the cheapest artist and the cheapest writer and the cheapest book. That's what we want you to sample. So
what about
it's a shrinking and I'm making it better.
What about the other little, not like little guys, but the other kind of bigger guys like Dark Horse, Image, or like, what about them? Do you think they need to also contribute to that too?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Don't cheat. Don't look at anything. Name me 5 Dark Horse books that are out right now.
Oh, shit. So I bought Bug Wars.
Okay.
Did they do Night Slashers?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't buy new books.
They do reprint anime stuff in omnibus format.
Oh, yeah. No. Trust me. Dark Horse has always been on the cutting edge of understanding the Japanese market and bringing it to America.
But currently, right now, I was reading... Bug Wars, and I recently got the TMNT Masters of the Universe issue 1. Yeah, I don't really typically buy a lot of Dark Horse stuff.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is you don't have to make a book if you don't think it's going to sell.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay. And IDW, they lost G.I. Joe, Transformers, all of this stuff. I don't even know what IDW makes anymore.
All they have is Star Trek, TMNT, and Sonic. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So focus on those 5 brands. Be the best goddamn Star Trek Sonics. Can I curse on your show?
You're fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Be the best goddamn Star Trek Teenage Mutant. I mean, fuck, you guys made Last Ronin the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle story ever written.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what a lot of people are going to get is what you're saying is there's so much fluff out there, so much just extra nonsense that it basically just dilutes the good stuff that exists. So if you cut down the line to like 15 books of good stuff, cut out all the extra fluff, you win.
Absolutely. That's how you fix the comic book industry.
But do you think they'll ever cut down the fluff? That's the thing.
No, because here's the thing. They all have these big fancy offices, and they have all these electrical bills.
Not the offices.
And if you're in California, you got an air conditioning bill. And guess what? You better sell 50 fucking different titles this month, DC, or Warner Brothers is cutting your power. You better sell 50 great books. You have to make your nut. you ever seen Step Brothers?
Oh yeah.
Don't you mess with my nut. Don't you mess with my nut. You screw up the Catalina wine mixer and you're messing with my nut. So they've got their bosses saying, you better pay for this, this, and this, or we're cutting it all. And your cushy job over there in sales and your cushy job at marketing and your cushy job at social media, gone. Okay. Yep. How many more? Can we get 3 more Harley Quinn titles this month? Okay. Yeah. 3 more Harley Quinns. That'll fix it.
Because do you even think people are even reading the books? There's no way, because usually when someone posts like a random panel out of like a Batman book, people are like, damn, the dialogue is that bad. The reason why they're surprised, guys, is because they didn't read it, even when they bought it themselves potentially. That's why they're surprised. These people I think they're just buying because the cover art just looks good.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why. Because there's no way a lot of people aren't reading this stuff. Because there's not enough chatter about it. Recently, Marvel fucking is going to announce a new Thunderbolt series or a new Champion series, like stuff that
should have been out 12 months ago.
Yeah, just announced today a new Thunderbolts title, and it's going to have a bunch of characters that aren't from the movie, so classic, no synergy.
Bother?
Yeah, because DC still thinks this, dude. We did videos on my comic channel where DC still thinks that when the Superman movie does well coming up, that means people are going to read Superman comic books because they're going to have a Summer of Superman event. And I'm like, no. People that know about the Summer of Superman event are people like me and you that are like comic books. And we know the movie's coming out, but vice versa, that doesn't work. People that are going to watch the Superman movie has no idea a Summer of Superman event from the comics exists.
No.
For some reason, they think that it'll never change because there's no synergy between movies and comics.
Joseph, here's what you're missing. There's
only being hot, rich, and good looking.
There's only one customer in the comic book industry. There's only one customer. Okay. He looks just like this right here. It's the 1,200 comic book retailers. That's the only person that they have to sell to. And if they can hype it so big at events like Comics Pro and San Diego and New York Comic Con, if they can make 1,200 idiots believe that if they buy all the Summer of Superman titles and the Superman James Gunn movie is going to be spectacular, then we're all going to be swimming in money. It's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. The last time that happened, Walking Dead, the Avengers movie with the Thanos.
Invincible, do you think that moved the needle on anything really?
No, because Invincible was already over when Invincible came out.
That's
what do you
true.
got to sell? What do you got to sell? The $60 phone book omnibuses?
Oh, those compendiums are big.
No, they're huge. But if you love Invincible, if you got a free Amazon Prime subscription and you sit down and you watch Invincible, like, holy shit, that's the craziest fucking shit I've ever seen in my life. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to one of these comic book stores and I'm going to buy some Invincible. What? Comic shop, where's your Invincible? I've got $10 trade paperbacks over here. I got $60 phone books over here. I got $125 hardcover omnibuses over here. Yeah. But I want to see what the art looks like. Do you have a comic book? Yeah, well, we have Invincible 1, CGC 9.8 for $2,000. I've got issue 2 for $200 raw over here. I've got issue 39 and 64 because those didn't sell well for me 10 years ago. So they're over in the dollar bins over there. That's not going to move the needle at a comic shop.
Yeah.
And guess what? Hold on. I'm going to slap you hard with this fact.
Oof.
Yeah. It's on Amazon Prime. Who's the number one seller of books in the world?
Not comic books. I know that. I'm pretty sure
it's Amazon.
No. Oh, sorry. My bad.
Yeah. Trade paperbacks.
Books. Yes.
Trade paperbacks. So even if you do go to that comic book store and you do have $60 to buy that phone book of volume 1, so you could follow along with the first season. You look on Amazon and it's $35 or $40.
Oh, another thing that I was thinking about was that you remember when James Gunn announced his phase 1 of his new universe, how he said these are the books that these movies are based off
All-Star Superman. by Frank Quietly.
But this is the other crazy part. So everyone knows the story where all the books sold on Amazon and they all had second printings. Guys, that doesn't mean that people went into comic shops and bought those things. I mean, I hope they did. But that boosted Amazon sales, but that didn't boost like the actual floppies being sold, you know?
Right. But here's the thing.
But it does prove that they can. If someone like him, a recognizable personality, sells you the book, it's proven people will go buy the books, but they don't do that. So because they're always probably thinking, why waste money on advertising? It won't matter. Just put a recognizable. If David Cornsweat is on a YouTube video and says, "Hey, go buy All-Star Superman DC Compact Comics. You're gonna love it." They'll do it. Yeah. People love this thing of like an influencer or a personality being connected to them.
But I've seen videos of Ryan Reynolds trying to get people to go to comic book stores. I've seen Hugh Jackman try to get people to go to comic book stores. I saw the entire cast of Watchmen try to get people to go to comic book stores. I've seen every one of these videos. They don't work. I
wish they did.
Just don't.
They very rarely work, but I wish they did though. I don't know why they don't. Maybe do you think it's because people just don't like reading? I think really that's what it is. No one likes reading.
No, I'll tell you what it is. So it's the economy of scale. So if you watch a TV show, how much does that cost you?
Well, essentially, since most people are not paying cable, let's use streaming service. It's like what $9.99 a month.
Let's just say free, because you were already going to have cable, and now it's on cable.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, Amazon Prime. You paid $10 for that.
Yeah.
And you probably got it for the free shipping and you just watch Invincible for free. Okay. Max costs like 15 or 20. You know, you don't have much investment in sitting down in your house and watching something. If you go to the movies, it's maybe you and one other person. That's $20, $30. That's not a lot of investment. But when you go into that comic book store and you pick up that comic book and you hold the comic book, I've got to have a comic book sitting around here. Here we go. and you pick up that comic book and you're like, oh, how much is this trade paperback? It is $19.99. Well, shit, I can have a whole month of Max for $19.99. Okay, well, what about these single comic books over here? Oh, that one right there. That's the hottest new Batman ever. Oh, awesome. How much is that? $4.99. $5 for 20 pages of a new Batman. Okay, thanks, guys. I'm going to go home and just watch. I'm going to binge season 2 real quick of Daredevil.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
For free.
It's basically trying to get the average person to invest in what they feel like is going to be the most bang for their buck, essentially.
Right. Now, I'll throw you a loop here. So let's just say you watched Captain America and
Brave New World.
New World. And you were into it. Like, you're like, that was the best $20 I've ever spent. I got to read more about this. Are you going to go pick up something that has nothing to do with this? Like, Steve Rogers is still Captain America in comic books right now, right?
Yes, he still is.
I know they had a Falcon Cap.
Sam Wilson has been mostly relegated to being on the Avengers because they want to have that as their Captain America. But no, Steve Rogers is in the book so far. Yeah.
Imagine a world where Marvel planned out a 6-issue miniseries that picks up from where this left off, and maybe it goes over here. Maybe we get more information about, President Harrison Ford, being locked up, and maybe we get more information about Sabra, his sidekick. Maybe we get more about Torres, the new Falcon. Whatever. But that has to be there when that guy who loves that source material comes into your store. We don't have that. Well, I do, because I have the entire run of Brubaker Cap when Sam became Captain America,
or cosplaying as Captain America.
Right, exactly. I'm a firm believer in Eric July's theory of hand-me-downs.
Oh, because what you're saying right there is another thing to add to it. Even when that person, you might get them to read it. Let's just say they eventually read it.
Yeah,
there's no synergy.
No.
So you're like, wait a minute. I went and watched this movie. It's like this. Then I go and read this Sam Wilson Captain America book. Well, he's nothing like he's in this book. He's actually better in this book. I like the book more, but the movies,
but they used to do that. So back when Avengers 2 came out, they had a prelude to Avengers 2. Now, they already knew the comic book, but guess what they had in that? They had the story about where Rhodey was when Avengers 1 was going down. Remember, Rhodey wasn't in Avengers 1?
I remember that, yeah.
But he was talking about it. And I went up to that general and I took his tank and I was like, bam! There, that is your tank. They had that story in a prelude to Avengers 2.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So if you there was something there for that guy.
Yeah.
And if they loved that movie, I had something to sell them. But that was only going to make me $3 every time I sold it, or $4. You know,
that's probably the biggest missed opportunity in comic book history, is that Marvel did not take a chance to synergize the MCU with the comic books. Or let's just say they make a whole new line. They do like 50 books anyway. They could have made an extra line for the MCU. They could have made one where after that first Avengers movie, Iron Man started the MCU, but it was the Avengers movie that really solidified everything for them. Imagine having an Avengers ongoing series after the first Avengers movie. That would have sold.
They knew where the little pieces were plugged in, because like Avengers 2 starts off with them going after Zemo. You could have had an entire storyline of the Avengers tracking down, and Black Widow had to go undercover in Moldova to find out the trail that leads them to this. They could have given an entire second life to all that stuff. They could have led all the comic book people into the movie theater, and they could have led all the movie theater people back into a comic book store. But they didn't. They missed out on all that.
And DC thinks they can just magically do that now with the new Superman movie.
Here's the thing. Have you ever read Frank Quietly's All-Star Superman?
No, not yet.
It's the most beautifully paneled book. And from everything that I've seen from these trailers, that it's not the storyboards from that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's based on Also Superman. Isn't that written by like Grant Morrison or some shit like that?
Grant Morrison, yeah.
Yeah.
But the movie wasn't written by Grant Morrison.
Yeah, it was written by by James Gunn. Yeah, I think it was James Gunn writing it. Yeah.
Right. So see what I'm saying? It's like you can't say, oh, it's just, hey guys, I'm making a Superman movie and it's off of this. But I wrote it instead of Grant Morrison, and I cinematography and storyboarded it out instead of Frank Quietly. Okay, well then that's not really that, James. That's you. That's not. Oh,
I wanted to ask you a few more things we're heading out, because I know you only have an hour of time left.
Yeah.
Sorry, about five minutes left.
Yeah.
So this character, I'm not saying I'm not predicting for this. Do you think Wonder Woman is an overrated character? Or do you think she's not as interesting, or do you actually like Wonder Woman as a character?
No, and I'll tell you, I love Wonder Woman as a character.
Okay.
When I was a kid, you have to understand, on TV, we had 3 superheroes.
You had the Carter one, didn't you?
We had 10-year-old Batman reruns of Biff, Pow, and Bang from Adam West. We had the Incredible Hulk with Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby, and we had Wonder Woman. And then a year after that, we had Superman. Christopher Reeves.
Yes.
We had all of that stuff in a 3-year window of time. It was all we needed. Every girl in my school loved Wonder Woman. Every dude loved the Hulk. Everybody loved Superman.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can't, you've got to care about making it. You can't just make it to, oh, we're going to make the movie and it's going to be boom, 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 boom. And we're going to make $1 billion at the box office. It's going to be the summer blockbuster. Guys, start small. Warner Brothers had Arrow, Flash, the future people. I don't remember who they were. They had a Supergirl. They had that Supergirl show was a really good show. They could have taken that Supergirl and turned it into the Supergirl for the movies. She was that good. That Flash was way better than Ezra Miller. So there's a way to do it, and it's not necessarily throw it all into a blockbuster movie, man. You can make baby steps. You can make this entire TV cinematic universe. you could have had a Justice League based on those guys plus some other guys. You could still have Ben Affleck jump in. I mean, Gal Gadot was great as Wonder Woman. I never had a problem with her.
What they said is because I forgot who was running the TV department. I think it was Greg something. He had said that they didn't want to confuse people with having multiple different versions of the characters. But people already knew Grant Gustin existed. People knew they had 2 Flashes. Well, people were aware of it. They liked Grant more. You know?
I was paying attention. So, did you watch that first episode of Flash when it came out on TV?
I watched the whole thing except season 9.
Right.
I watched Flash.
Here's the thing: we all watched that. I think it was on a Tuesday night. Was that on Tuesday nights?
Yes, it was on Tuesday night forever. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I remember the next day, Wednesday morning, we all came into the comic book store. Dude, did you watch a Flash? Holy shit!
Yeah,
that was fucking. I didn't think they could do that. That was really good. That
season 1 was really good.
Yeah, that kid, he could be the Flash in a movie. And then Warner Brothers like, all right, everybody. I know we haven't even released our Superman Batman movie that we announced in San Diego back in July, but we've got a Justice League 2. And we're like, oh shit, Grant Gustin, Arrow. Oh, do it. Ezra Miller. And we're like, who? I mean, this kid
only
just
credit was in Perks of Being a Wallflower. That was the only credit at that point.
This kid just blew the doors off the place. We were all talking about him on Wednesday morning.
Yeah,
and you come out immediately and say, yeah, that kid's not good enough to be in our Justice League movie.
But the reasoning behind it was so stupid because they said it was going to confuse people having too many different versions of the characters running around. People wanted those. People just wanted the CW ones, or at least the good ones. They wanted them in the Justice League because they felt like they were the quality actors to get away. They could have had Stephen Amell, Green Arrow in the Justice League. Yep. He doesn't really have all these personality, but he could have worked.
Dude, he said at one point he said, "I'll do it for free, guys. Just give me a call." And then it called.
Yeah. Imagine Tom Cavanaugh Reverse Flash in the Flash movie. That disgusting trash Flash movie has all the elements of Reverse Flash being there, but they don't have Reverse Flash. That's the reason why DC will always fail even more so than Marvel, because they blatantly shoot themselves in the foot.
And that's why I have zero faith. I have zero faith in the entire James Gunn universe. I really do.
You have faith in Joe Biden, right?
Huh?
You have faith in Joe Biden, right?
Right.
No, but dude, like, if you're a Flash fan, I love the Flash, and I like Barry, and you see a movie and you're like, man, I finally get one of my favorite characters on screen. He's gonna fight his main adversary, because Batman gets his main adversaries, Superman gets his, Spider-Man always gets his. People remember back when it came out, people tried to justify to you, oh, it did. Reverse Flash didn't need to be there. Reverse Flash got integral to how Barry is as a character.
Yep.
But then why would you not need him? That's like saying Joker doesn't need Batman. That doesn't make any sense. That you would never make that argument for Batman, but they did it for the Flash, and no Reverse Flash in the Flash. They try to make it some sort of like ghetto No Way Home version movie.
He's fighting himself.
The Dark Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. you don't see it all in the entire movie until the very last end, and it's like, oh, good.
I mean, you've nailed it. You've really nailed the entire argument. The comic industry didn't have synergy. The comic studios never have synergy. Nobody wants to work together. You know, you message me.
Egos? You think it's egos that do it?
It's absolutely egos.
Yeah.
It's absolutely egos. You know, here's the thing, Joseph, I didn't know you at all 3 days ago. And you messaged me out of nowhere and said, hey, man, I want you to come on my show. And I'm like, let's do it. You know why? Because I don't have an ego about it. I would go on your show. I'll do my show. I'll do my buddy's show. It doesn't matter. If I'm free, let's do it. Let's do this shit.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation. Let's make this the whole place better by doing this. You know what I'm saying? But these guys don't want to work together. All those people that clapped never got up and said the same thing as me at the retailer summit. All those publishers that got the applause, they didn't ask the people who weren't clapping, hey, why weren't you clapping out there? You didn't like
this one guy on ESPN said it when they had an analyst desk, the best way you put it. People are basically trying to be bus passengers and the person driving the bus. They're okay with just being along for the ride. You know, but then when a book does well, they want to be like, I made that book. I had my name's on that book. No, you were a passenger in this book. You didn't do anything. Your name's just on there because the editor just maybe liked you and you got that guy coffee randomly one day. You know,
Yeah.
like we need there's no wolves here. There's no lions. They're just a bunch of sheep. And you have one lion, and then all the sheep pounce on the lion, and he can't take him down, and he gets demonized. You never heard from that other guy we brought up earlier because Marvel and DC were called him and said, "You keep talking bad about us, you won't get no books." He didn't say anything after his rant. Nothing. He's went completely silent since then. Like, just
I could tell you. No, here's the thing. I busted Marvel's balls all the time. I busted DC's balls 10 times worse. They still sold me comic books. They threatened a couple times.
So you're saying they will be like, hey, I don't know, we gotta calm
but they
down.
realized they couldn't control me, and pissing me off and kicking me out was worse for them than if they just sucked it up and listened to me and did nothing.
So the very last few things I want to ask you before you head out, which is DC and Marvel are finally going to team up later on this year. They haven't teamed up since the Amalgam Age. Fucking time.
And I'll tell you, that was right. The last time they teamed up was when Image took a giant chunk of their money and
that's true,
all the West Coast and bought Rob and Jim and Todd all of their mansions in Malibu. And that's when Marvel was like, hey, DC, you guys felt that Image, right? Yeah, we kind of felt that. Hey, how about we team up and we make some issues just to make some more money and kind of get us back on the map? Yeah, I think we should do that. The time they did that before, in the 70s, is when the indie comics started to come back. That's when you saw Superman and Spider-Man, that big treasury book. And you saw Batman and Captain America. No, Batman and the Hulk. And then it was Captain America and somebody, I can't remember who, but they gave everybody a little team up action back in the late 70s, early 80s. And that's when all those black and white indies started popping up. And then they did it again when Image started popping up. And now, guess what? The whole house is starting to crumble. And now
they want to team up again.
Marvel. Hey,
we should make an omnibus together. Yeah, because they did it last year.
It's like they both have one of those things on the side of their wall that says "break in case of industry collapse," and let's get the last amount of money we can. And they both hit that button at the same time every like 15, 20 years.
Like last year when they announced they were going to making omnibuses together, one based off the crossovers and one based off the amalgamation, people were like, wait, what? That was so confusing. We're like, because we're told these guys don't even like each other. So why would two mortal enemies team up? Money has to be not good. Money must just not be there.
Yeah, because guess what? All of those decisions were made after COVID and after no numbers got circulated.
Yep.
So we don't know those numbers. I personally think those numbers were falling.
Because when they brag about them, they were big. We know that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
I was going to ask, do you think their new team up coming up is going to revitalize the industry in any way? Or do you think it's just going to fall on its feet?
Did you see that art that they shared?
They shared art? I haven't seen it yet.
It was a collage that they made to throw it out there. And
all I know is that basically Marvel's going to have a turn and then DC will have a turn. Right. That's all I know for sure. But it's like, who are they putting on that? I mean, to be fair, Mark Miller did say he was going to do something big. Maybe that was the thing he was going to be doing big. For their crossovers coming up, if they want to really revitalize the industry, they need you need the absolute best people on there, not fucking Gail Simone with John Romita Jr. Probably not a good idea for your big crossover. You need the best teams on these.
No, absolutely. That's the thing is every time they come up with their big movie. Like, look at James Gunn's Superman.
Yeah.
It's got Hawkman. It's got Green Lantern.
Terrific. Yeah.
It's got all these characters. Well, they have to call out everything they can to make that a success. That's the same thing you have to do with these comic books. Yeah. If you don't have Bendis and Hickman and Millar and whatever Todd wants to get, pay Todd to make a cover for it. Todd, we're sorry for both of us. Can you do this for us?
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. Write the check, make the biggest and best thing. But if they half-ass this, no one's going to care. Next year, no one's going to care.
Because Marvel is even trying. Like DC, I can give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt recently because they put the dollar store comic books in Dollar Tree. They had the compact comics. They've had the new collected editions. DC, I'll give them as at least trying. Marvel is just fucking off at this point. They legitimately do not care at this point. So we'll see how the industry goes in a few more months. We'll see how the crossover pans out. But last few things I'll ask you. First thing is, do you have any plans or anything coming up that you want to let the audience know about before we head out?
Yeah, I'm going to Japan for Star Wars Celebration next month.
You're gonna be a samurai?
No, more of a sumo, but you know. And then I'm probably gonna do C2E2 for at least a day or two. The week before that. Free Comic Book Day is still a big event at our stores.
Which is probably the last one I'll ever be. If you
no,
know.
No, I think there's really one after it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but other than that, probably San Diego. That's really all I care about.
Okay. Hell yeah. So last thing I'll ask you is, do you have any shout outs you want to give to anyone in particular and anything you want to say before you head out?
I want to shout out to Joseph over here for sacking up and inviting me on the show. Shout out to my co-host Jesse James and Brian McClay on the Industry of Comics show every Tuesday night. I just dropped a new video yesterday about dealing with your haters. That's really interesting over on the Wonder World Comics YouTube channel. And man, congrats on your show.
Yeah, man. You're gonna be uploading what, like once a week, probably?
I think we do 2 a week.
Okay, yeah.
I film 2 a week, and then they kind of spread out as we edit them.
Yeah. So your next video should be top 5 best stories from Gail Simone.
I'll tell you what. I actually had hope. When New 52 came out, do you remember who they cast?
Batgirl run, right?
No. Well, she had her Batgirl, but she also had her and Ethan Van Sciver were going to do Firestorm. And
I didn't hear about that. Yeah.
And Firestorm is that character that's like 2 characters in one, and he's always
I like Firestorm. I know what that is. Yeah.
And and I was like, there is so much potential to have Gail Simone and Ethan Van Sciver butting heads about a character who's always at turmoil with himself. Tell me that's not the greatest idea ever, and it was a piece of fucking dog shit.
The irony is just too good. Ethan, who's just a complete crazy wackadoo, and she's just a complete crazy wackadoo, just making a book.
That should have been the best book that came out of New 52, and it wasn't.
And as you know, Jeff Johns carried Ethan. His art's whatever.
Don't get me into that boat. I'll tell you what.
I'm kidding. Joking.
No. But I'll go one step further. Jeff and Ethan were like chocolate and peanut butter. Green Lantern Rebirth made me love comic books again. Green Lantern, the regular series, up through Blackest Night, I loved every single issue of that. Brightest Day, not so much. But then you look at Jeff by himself, Ethan by himself. None of them have ever hit that level of just amazingness. I mean, Ghost Machine is really good by itself, but it's not Green Lantern Rebirth numbers by any stretch.
And Cyberfrog is
crowdfunded, and he goes right to his source with that, and the art's amazing. I can't draw that good. You know what I'm saying? So,
6 figures.
Yeah, exactly. So I will defend Ethan and Jeff together. That book, I mean, it came out the month before I opened my store 20 years ago, and I sold so much of that. At one point, I was selling 90 Green Lanterns a month. And when New 52 happened, we went down to 15 Green Lanterns a month.
Yeah, because if people don't know, I think in everyone's top best Green Lantern runs, that one is up there. It's probably like the best one. That's not number 1 or number 2. No. People are like, you need to read this.
I'll give your viewers this. The best Green Lantern story I've ever read is a story called Ganthet's Tale. It was a prestige format book from the 90s. Best damn Green Lantern story I ever read. And Rebirth is second only to that.
Damn. I like Jeremy Adams' run currently right now. I read the first trade, it was really good, honestly. But I gotta do my due diligence and read Jeff Johns and Ethan's
there you go
story. So yeah, thank you guys for checking out this episode of the MSK show. Can't wait to talk to Dennis when he gets back from his trip after he becomes basically an anime character who's eating ramen and slaying demons or something, man. They're gonna infect this man. He's gonna start rapping in their native tongue. So see you guys later and have a good night, everybody. Goodbye, everyone. Peace.